The Irrational Confidence Podcast.
Let's go to our number 21 team. This is interesting that we put them at 21 because they're a team that I really just don't know what to make of them because they've had a wild offseason. They make the college football playoff for the first time last year. Everyone's praising them. Josh Heupel, they go into Columbus, Ohio, get the break speed off of them in the first quarter. I think Jeremiah Smith still would score on most of Tennessee's defense even now. And then all of a sudden they have the drama with Nico, and Josh Heupel tells him to pound sand. Good on him as he tries to hold the team up for more NIL money. Nico is now off to UCLA. Dylan Sampson off to the NFL. Joey Aguilar from App State is in. I think that because they have lost so much, especially on the offensive side of the football, this is going to be the season we find out really how good of a coach Josh Heupel is. Because he is not playing with a full deck. I don't even know if he's playing with a half a deck.
Oh yeah, first off, if you listen to the podcast before, you know I'm a major Tennessee hater. What Josh Heupel and the entire athletic department at Tennessee did with the Nico situation earned my respect.
Right.
You can't, especially now, like nowadays, these kids are asking for tons of money. Yes, there's the house settlement of 20 million for an athletic department, and you can just break it up as much as you want. But what has Nico done to earn the money? And what did he even do? The last year it was a run first football team. He couldn't hit it. Him and Joe Milton couldn't hit open receivers for the majority of the time for Tennessee the past 2 years. So the whole hype around Nico, I think it was a false bravado because he was not winning games on his arm. Even when they started him in the bowl game at the end of the 23 season when they played Iowa, he ran for 4 touchdowns. He didn't throw one, which was great, but he was brought there to be a quarterback and throw the football. The passing offense for Josh Heupel is the focus point of high, fast pace, hit the perimeter, hit the edge, then set up the running game from there. Tennessee has a dominant running game. He was a beast. And I think that helped. Everybody kept watching the scores, and we kept seeing stats like, man, Tennessee's putting up points, but it wasn't through the passing game. He was throwing
Right.
interceptions. He was making bad decisions. He was overthrowing wide open receivers. So where from the Nico family, the Emo Valiaba family, gave you the boldness to
Yeah.
demand extra money? Like this was, but I think the arrogance of it is other schools would have given the money, and people are tampering into the portal, asking guys to come out. Agents are involved. Someone's like, oh well, someone so and so will give him money. What do you want to stay and play? So I think that's a different conversation we can have about how they negotiate NIL and the transfer portal because it exposed a lot of things. And if Tennessee had settled, it's like here's X amount of money we'll give in. Every player on that team would have been like, what the heck? And they would have started asking for more money because obviously they all knew he isn't just because he's the quarterback doesn't mean he's the best player on the team. And if you're in practice, the team knows if you're legit or not. The outside media, they'll just blow all the smoke they want. The guys in practice, they know who the best players are. They know if the dude's worth the salt or if he's just the quarterback they have to put out there to get the job done. I have a feeling the team's going to play better because they don't have that hanging over them now.
Right.
They don't have an ego or in a family nonsense where, yeah, there were times where he'd make great throws, but I remember in the Alabama game when him and Miller are throwing picks back and forth, he rolled left. He could have run for 15 yards, and he threw the ball to the DB on the sideline. And they're like, you're in the red zone, and you threw a pick that was completely useless. There was no receiver around at all. So major props to Tennessee for saying, no, we're not doing this. Go to UCLA, go back to California, go play in the Big Ten, and go 3-9 and throw 20 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, but get paid. That's cool. Do your thing. The Aguilar situation, he had flashes at App State. He was really, really good in the Sun Belt, but there's times where, like last year, App State struggled because he was not able to finish the drives. The year before, yes, he helped them go beat Texas A&M, but they faded down the stretch at A&M, at App State. They didn't win the Sun Belt. So he has mobility, he has flashes, but there's a reason why he was in the Sun Belt for the past few years. I think he gives them hope. He gives them a guy who has some skills they can work with. The big arm quarterback side, I'm not exactly sure, but the mobility is going to add a extra thing a wrinkle they can use. There's also the past quarterbacks have also recruited there at Tennessee creates a competition. So I don't think it's Aguilar's job guaranteed.
Hmm.
I think there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching as the season starts to see who takes the job. And they might even go back and forth as the year goes on. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But Tennessee fans, be patient with the quarterbacks because I don't think you're going to get a finished product. You're just going to have to see how they play it out. And considering you've had Joe Milton and Nico the past 2 years, and you've had there's been bad quarterbacks that have gone through Tennessee in the past 20, let them figure it out. It's not going to happen overnight. The running back situation. Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis, these guys weren't superstar, five-star recruit running backs that are coming in there. One's a couple, actually, both of them are walk-ons. You're going to have a running back by committee approach. Let them sort of get settled in. It's going to be a different kind of offense because right now you don't have the big arm quarterback. Safeties start dropping up. The receivers struggled last year. Your quarterback's unknown. It's going to be you're not going to be putting them 60 points every single day. If you win in the game 24-20, just take the victories and enjoy it. I expect a different kind of philosophy offensively from Josh Heupel that will help play to the strengths of the defense. Big guys you have to step up offensively. Mike Matthews and Chris Brazell and Braylon Stanley at receiver. The three of them got to elevate their game. If they can elevate their game and take the pressure off whoever the quarterback is and the running game, that'll allow the offense to grow. The offensive line, not running only, they're going to need four new starters in the offensive line. It means there's a lot of inexperience there as well, a lot of youth at the receiver spot, youth at the running back spot. This offense is not going to what it looked like under Hendon Hooker. You got to be patient with it. It's going to have some struggles, but to let it evolve because the defense is very good. Returned seven starters, plus a couple of guys in the portal coming in. The Tennessee's defense is going to carry this football team. As a volunteer fan, take it like it's the T. Martin year. The big time offense under Peyton Manning was great. The defense still was, there's always something missing. When he left, that defense helped carry, and they had Jamal Lewis and then Fearless Price and T. Martin. The defense was rock. And they carried that offense and they won a national championship. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to win a natty, but the defense is going to carry the football team. It's going to be old school. You're not going to have 1,000 points being scored, but this defense is going to carry the balls and keep them in a lot of ball games and allow that offense to get there. Will the offense be ready for Georgia in week 3? We'll find out. But as the season progresses, I think that defense will allow that offense to get them somewhere, and you'll see the back half of the year that Tennessee offense will catch up and play a lot better. They have a manageable, very manageable schedule, which allows us to actually become something that's very plausible. Yeah, you have a bookend of Florida and Georgia Florida at the back end, Georgia early, but in the middle of the schedule, it's not impossible. The toughest 4 game stretch, Arkansas, which you probably want payback, and that's in Neyland, at Alabama, at Kentucky, Oklahoma. That's not a murderer's row of a gauntlet. You can survive that. Is this team going to be 11-1 or 10-2? I think their max is probably 10-2, and that's if everything goes perfect. But the bottom, if the offense doesn't get up to speed or late by the end of the season, 7 wins is probably possible for this football team. So the defense has got to hold on tight and keep them involved and allow the offense to catch up. And Heupel, like you said, this has got you have to show up your coaching and put your pedigree to really show up now and get these quarterbacks ready to play, get the offense ready to play, receiver wise, running back wise, and offensive line, and allow them to develop over the season and be able to show up when they matter. That's going to be the biggest tying factor. If he can coach them up, 9 wins are legit possible. 10 is probably the fringe and puts them in that playoff conversation. But if that offense is not ready and they have quarterback issues, 7-5 is there. They're no worse than 7-5. But it's really going to come down to has he hit the quarterback position and has that offense as a whole gel quickly and put up points.
We got the 2 recruits, Merklinger from 2 years ago and McIntyre, both 4 stars who came in. I think that both those guys might be competing with Aguilar and seeing which one's going to give them the best opportunity. I think you made a good point here, Precious. They probably will start the year with Aguilar just because he's a senior. He's been around the block. He's seen quite a bit. I won't be shocked to see one of those recruits take the reins maybe halfway through the school or into the season. Here, I put on here Chris Brazell Jr. or the second. I love how these guys, instead of being junior, they want to be the second. You take a look at a kid like him, 29 catches last year, 300-plus yards. He's going to be a big deal for how good this quarterback play comes into play, how good this quarterback play is for the Volunteers. Because if he's able to produce and be that true number 1 receiver, because you're losing Broom McCoy, you're losing Squirrel White, You're losing Dylan Sampson. You're losing all of these weapons that you had last season. You need someone to step up. Who's going to be that guy? You take a look at what they're going to do in the running game there. Bishop and Lewis are going to be their two running backs to start this season here. I think Deshaun Bishop has a really good opportunity to kind of take the reins of it. But Peyton Lewis was one of their better rushers against the Ohio State defense. You take a look at what he did in that bowl game. The kid ran for 77 yards on 10 carries. He was having a halfway decent ball game in that game. Are they able to do that? Defensive side of the football, I'm with you. They return a lot of that. Are they able to kind of replace the production of James Pierce? They're going to have to do that one as well. I put down here in my notes as well. Take a look at Gibson, McCoy, vital in coverage. That defense, one of the things that they've done very, very well is the Tennessee secondary has given their pass rush time to get after the quarterback. Does that continue? I think max for this team is 9-3. I don't think in years past we've seen the gap narrowing between a team like Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia's been the better program, but the gap was slowly, I think it's widened back out. I don't think this team is as good as Georgia. I don't think this team is as good as Alabama. And I really, if Florida does what we expect them to do, this team is not as good as Florida. I think they're in the same boat as Oklahoma, maybe South Carolina. I think South Carolina is a little bit better than this team because I really like Lenore Sellers. But the defense will keep them into the games. Again, if they can kind of reproduce that rushing attack, David Sanders, the 5-star offensive tackle, that guy's a monster, man. He's going to be a legit stud on that offensive line early on in his career there. I have them at best 9-3, but again, I have them highly suspect at 9-3 because even that opening game, both you and I have talked about what's going on over there in Syracuse. And I think both of us really like what Syracuse is doing in the ACC. I think they're going to take a step back a little bit last year, but they have good things going on there. And that's not a slam dunk win for them.
No, I think Fran Brown, the Kirby Smart disciple, he's coached against Tennessee a lot. The offense for Syracuse is not going to be what it was last year.
No.
Kyle McCord and that team, they were flying high. I think the defense will take a step advance and move forward. So that's going to be a real test. Syracuse, it's not going to be a walkover. Syracuse, Tennessee is going to be a fun ball game. I think we're going to learn a lot about both teams. But I think it's actually good for that Tennessee offense. You're not going to get, sloppy State University to roll in there and put up 60 on them. You need a challenge early to really evaluate because you go get yourself in practice all summer long and all fall camp. It's great. But when the pads start hitting against somebody else, you want a challenge, especially to see where your team really is. There's no preseason football. You can only scrimmage your size. You know your teammates after a while.
Right.
That first game being a legit opponent, I think is going to get their attention. Then be ready to rock and roll. You're going to have some bumps and bruises, but it's going to allow you to really evaluate on the tape, then get a week in between, and then prepare for the Georgia Bulldogs to come to Neyland. That I think is actually going to do more of a benefit for Tennessee than I think people or even the fans think. Like, oh, it's just Syracuse. No, they were good last year. They beat Miami. Fran Brown is going to build a program there, and they're going to rise up and cause some stir in the ACC continuously. But they're going to give a good challenge to Tennessee and get their attention early.
My only concern with Tennessee is if things don't progress for them. If, let's say, first week of the year, they lose to Syracuse. Obviously, I don't think they're beating Georgia anytime soon. And they wind up losing October 11th to Arkansas. And they're 3-3 going into Tuscaloosa. I'm worried that the wheels could fall off this program. Like, I have worst case scenario as 6-6, where the finger pointing starts happening. You're not doing your job. You're not doing this because everything was kind of built around there. Yeah, in the long run, I think Tennessee will be better, because of getting out of the Nico situation. At the same time, too, I think he would have been maybe a little bit more of a steady hand with it than what they're going to have coming into the season. Again, long term, Tennessee is going to be just fine. Short
And
term,
that's what
this could be a rough year.
I think off your point there, Heupel's job's not in question.
Mm-mm.
Even if I think if they went 4-8, there might be some rumors because big boosters get pissed. But if they go 6-6 or 7-5, and there's a lot of quarterback issues, what happens so late in the process builds into equity. Going to the playoff last year
Right.
builds into equity. Taking them to the Orange Bowl a couple years ago builds the equity. We're like, all right, things happen out of our control. It was weird. Reset, recycle. You're recruiting well, and go from there. That's not gonna. There's no hot seat for Heupel unless it was a 1-11 campaign. Like, then conversations are gonna happen.
Right.